John, welcome to the Whistleblowers Hall of Fame. How are you today, my friend?
I am well, Jason. Good to see you. Good to see you.
It's good to
I'm
see
well,
you.
thank you. How are you feeling? You all right?
Pretty all right. I'm a
All right.
little irritated about stuff. There's something that I'm trying here today that I'm hopeful will work, but I'm right now being given an indication that perhaps it's not. We've been having a lot of shenanigans with YouTube, John. You know, you had an imposter who was impersonating your John E. Hoover YouTube channel. And it seems like something similar is happening with Crowdsource the Truth 3 as well. People who are watching us now, John, most people, I should think, are aware that you and I do a weekly sponsor exclusive show on subscribestar.com/reverse-CSI. Sorry, that's David's thing. It's subscribestar.com/I am John Cullen and patreon.com/I am John Cullen, as well as Subscribestar and Patreon/Crowdsource the Truth. We're going to be getting underway with that very, very soon, taking people on a tour of the Whistleblowers Hall of Fame. I want to make sure that people know they can watch simulcasts of our YouTube broadcasts on the John E. Hoover YouTube channel. You're in a hair's breadth, sort of striking distance to 37,000 subscribers. So hopefully people can subscribe to the John E. Hoover channel today and push you to 37K. What are we going to be talking about today, John? First here and then on Subscribestar and Patreon.
Well, first let's talk about the Jason Goodman channel and the Crowdsource the Truth 2 channel, the Crowdsource the Truth 3 channel, and the Crowdsource the Truth Forever channel. It seems that I put a post up the other day that said you can't keep a good man down after you were up in Connecticut, and you were, I don't know how your batteries lasted. You're always on the cutting edge with the battery thing, but you ran something like 6 hours up there or something. I mean, it's wild.
Well, 3 hours 40, but you're right.
Okay,
it is difficult.
Okay, 340.
To keep a stream
I was amazed. Yeah, I mean, after 2 hours, stuff starts getting hot and all that. So a 4 hour stream, and I posted it, and everybody started watching it, and then I guess it got pulled. So I guess somebody said something up on stage that our hosts didn't approve of, and you got pulled. So do you remember when we had Dr.
John.
Judy?
I have something else amazing to share with you, and it is amazingly working. This is a breakthrough and a first ever on the John Cullen Investigates channel. People can now watch Crowdsource the Truth and all co-hosted shows in live streams on rumble.com. So get onto rumble.com, subscribe to Crowdsource the Truth, and you're going to be able to watch our daily live streams on CS the Truth on Rumble. Exciting, John.
I like it. I like it a lot.
New platform.
Now, does this come with a Dan Bongino stuffed plushie thing or something? Do we get a little Dan?
Is he involved with Rumble?
Yeah, I think he's.
I thought it's Canadian.
So what? You can't own a piece of a Canadian company?
I don't really like Dan Bongino, but I like alternative live streaming platforms, and we've got one here. So thank you, Dan Bongino, and thank you, Rumble.
There you go. All right. That's good to see. I like it. Well, what we're going to talk about in this show, we're going to talk about whistleblowers, and we're going to go to the Whistleblowers Hall of Fame. I thought it was important because I think that we're seeing a shift, very much like the shift that we saw in criminology about 5 years ago when you introduced Crowdsource the Truth, and people started to bring material evidence to the fore, right, and to the forefront, right, to your attention, to your audience's attention. And you kind of created this phenomenon. And I didn't even know it when I started my channel, when I started the original John Cullen channel and then the John E. Hoover channel. I didn't even realize I was using your method until we met. And then I'm like, oh my God, this guy kind of invented this thing.
Well, wait, let me pause you there, because people get upset. I didn't really
Okay.
invent it. I discovered it. It's one of these things where I just sort of had this epiphany that if you could put these ideas out in social media and get a lot of feedback from people, you know, and then I saw other people doing it. So I certainly didn't invent it, but I have done a good job of creating a brand around it. Yeah.
You put a name to it. You put a name to it so that people could kind of wrap their head around what's going on here. And what I have said repeatedly in the past is that you changed criminology in doing this. All right. And I think the best example that we had going in, you know, to kind of back up that statement was the Las Vegas shooting. Because, you know, I could never have done it without the contributions, even of people who hate me. It's kind of funny.
Right.
Right. But there's a whole bunch of people out there that can't stand me, my content, my channel.
The glasses,
bend over backward,
the
the whole
lights,
thing.
the
They
color.
just can't. They can't take it. They hate me, and I get it. I'm not a likable guy.
That's not true.
That's why I didn't appear on camera for 2 years. I was like, look, I am a bastard. I am an evil, nasty. I just don't. You know, I have zero patience for nonsense. I have zero patience for this flat Earth crap, right? And I don't have a bedside manner. I don't. You know, and so therefore I stayed behind the camera or behind the whatever the heck I was making for 2 years until you coaxed me out and said, no, come on, man, you know, and you got me to appear on camera. And that was about 2 years ago, give or take, right? Rough and
Well,
tough,
when was the
first?
When was the first appearance on camera? Was it when I went to?
First appearance on camera was for the anniversary show that we did for the shooting, and we did it with Laura Loomer and Joe Napoli.
Right.
Yeah, Joe Napoli and Laura. That was the first time I was on camera in the Get Up. Prior to that, you and I were doing a show, and I was just calling in. It was, you know, vocals only. So, but you're the one who convinced me to come out and appear on camera. But the point is that this Vegas shooting case was solved by thousands of people working together in like this hive mind mode that you gave a label to called crowdsourcing the truth. And my way of thinking of it is this is a whole new way to look at criminology. And if you were a detective back in the 70s, this is game changing.
Oh, yeah.
This is entirely different. If you went to John Jay College to study criminology, how do you address this? How do you address this aspect? And all right, so where does this go? I think we're seeing a similar dynamic in the world of whistleblowers. What we used to think of as a whistleblower, in the classical sense, the Kiriakus, the Binnies, the guys who work at the CIA, they work at the NSA, they see something that gets them upset and they want to blow the whistle. And that's been the traditional definition of whistleblower. Am I right? How would you define it? What is your definition? I mean, the classical definition
someone,
of,
usually an insider at an organization or a company who sees graft, corruption, or waste and goes public with the story.
But I think sort of the whistleblower connotation is that when they go forward with the story, it's with the best of intentions,
protected.
Right? The best of intentions, and I think there's a certain assumption of altruism. Would you agree?
Well, yeah, because they're risking their safety to tell you about someone doing a crime or corruption or something, and obviously the person who's involved in the crime is going to be motivated to make them shut up.
Okay, and so now we have all these whistleblower rules and whistleblower protections, so that if you do work somewhere and you're a whistleblower, you're protected, because as a society, we've said, whistleblowing is important, right? If there's something going on behind the scenes that's not okay and somebody sees it and it's criminal, yeah, we want them to bring that to the forefront. So we have whistleblower protections. Now, the problem is the definition of whistleblower has changed just as criminology has changed. And if we don't keep up with this, we're kidding ourselves. Right? So if you don't think criminology changed in the Las Vegas shooting case as a result of thousands of people contributing evidence, I mean, we've never seen anything like that before. And where
Certainly not. Sorry, real quick, Sean. Here from Wikipedia, I don't know who's created this, but it's the Office of Special Counsel of the United States of America. So this is the official definition of whistleblowing. Yeah,
so
a
we can't get taken down for this. We can't get taken down.
Right.
This is not misinformation. This is not misinformation. In fact, this is not really information. You're just reading the government stuff, right? This is anybody who's construing this as a definitive source of anything, you are on the wrong channel. This is not the CDC. If you want official stuff, go to the CDC or the FDA or the WHO. Go to Pfizer. Go to Moderna. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know what the hell I am, right? Don't listen to me or any advice. Nothing here is advice. There's no advice. Talk to your doctor. That's the only advice.
Or ask Joe Rogan.
Joe Rogan is
Let's get to that in a second. Let me read the whistleblower definition, and then we'll talk about Joe Rogan, because that's good. Right. According to the Office of Special Counsel, who would be dealing with these whistleblowers and abiding by these whistleblower protection laws, a whistleblower discloses information he or she reasonably believes evidences a violation of any law, rule, or regulation, gross mismanagement, a gross waste of funds, an abuse of authority, a substantial and specific danger to public health, a substantial and specific danger to public safety. It doesn't specifically say anything about the person needing to be in any particular occupation to do any of those things.
No. Go back up. Read the next paragraph. The Office of Special Counsel provides a secure channel through which current and former federal employees and applicants for federal employment may make confidential disclosures. That's not you. You're not a current federal employee. Are you a former federal employee?
Never.
Did you work for the federal government? Then you're not protected by this. Then you have no protection. Thank you very much,
good
Jason.
Point.
Thanks for playing. Thanks
but
for
you
reading.
could still expose these things, even if you're not working there.
Well, these are the definitions of what they believe, the disclosures, right? So what the evidences are, which is meaningful, but the protections that are being afforded are not being afforded to you. They're being afforded to people who work for the government. Now, certain companies have whistleblower laws within the company, right? So if you work at so if you work at Lockheed Martin, right? If you work at Lockheed Martin and you're in the manufacturing floor and you see something, there are guidelines in the HR handbook for whistleblowing, and there are protections. Right? Now, we know that the SEC gives awards if somebody blows the whistle on SEC naughtiness, right? We know that, right? That the SEC...
I thought it's on stock market naughtiness.
Well, yeah. I mean, basically anything that would, trigger the SEC. And I think they recently gave some tremendous award, like $116 million award.
Brad Birkenfeld.
Well, there you go. So you know the story. I don't know the story.
I spoke to the guy on the phone.
Oh, my God. What's the story?
Well, I just spoke to him specifically. He was paid out, I think, $116 million. Brad Birkenfeld, yeah, we should have included him in the Whistleblower Hall of Fame. And then the reason I came to speak to him is that a guy by the name of Scott, can't believe I can't remember his last name, but people remember him. Scott, whatever his name was, from the Army, said that he was in jail with this guy and that Birkenfeld had shared, someone's got to put Scott's last name into the chat. How do I forget that? But he was in jail with Birkenfeld, and Birkenfeld told him, according to Scott, this whole story about UBS and laundering money, etc. And then Scott wrote a book called Shell Game. Scott Bennett is the guy's name. And a viewer called me and said, hey, there's some problems with what Scott is saying. I asked Scott some very straightforward, honest questions that he refused to answer, and I find that suspicious. So I looked into these questions further, and it ultimately led to a phone call with Brad Birkenfeld, and Brad Birkenfeld said to me, Scott Bennett is a liar, stole his information and changed it.
Ooh.
Yeah.
All right. So, but Brad Birkenfeld right now is the single largest award-winning whistleblower in American history, it appears. Am I right? I think
you're right.
He had the single largest government payout. So he broke the bank of
Swiss bank
Swiss
secrecy.
Bank. Go ahead, you read it.
But it's not telling us how much he was paid. I do remember it was $104 million. That was it.
All right, there you go. Close. I was off a little bit. There you go. $104 million by the IRS.
On September 11th.
Nice.
They're telling
you
me about
go.
this.
Yeah. Interesting. All right. Well, I mean, this guy, he won. I mean, you talk about, winning the internet. I mean, I'd love to see a show with this guy and Charles.
Well, he didn't
that
want to be on the
amazing.
show. Didn't want to be on the
Okay.
show. Didn't want to have anything to do with that. He just
Interesting.
he came onto a FaceTime call to prove that it was him, and he said just exactly what I just told you.
Okay. All right. Well, what's interesting is he gets $104 million, and I've been working on a video on Harry Markopoulos, and he's another hero, right? So Harry Markopoulos is the guy who blew the whistle on Madoff, but he didn't work for Madoff, so he didn't fit the traditional whistleblower mold. He was a competitor of Madoff's, but he did the work, and he figured out that this was a scam, and he kept reporting them to the SEC for 9 years. And the SEC didn't take Harry Markopoulos seriously. And as a result, Madoff ends up, burning through $62 billion. Now,
Wait 1 second.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Because is it a case of them not taking him seriously? Or is the SEC just like the FBI, where they're protecting people they like, and if you're not on that list, you're in trouble?
Eventually, what ends up happening is in the 2007-2008 crash, when Lehman goes out of business and Bear Stearns goes out of business, people who had invested millions with Madoff are like, I'm losing money here, I'm losing money there. I need to cash out a couple million. I need a couple million. And as that starts happening, everything that Harry Markopoulos had said starts coming true, and the SEC is forced. So to your point, I don't know, again, who's pulling the strings behind the scenes. I want to put Harry Markopoulos up on a pedestal because for 9 years, this guy stayed on it. And he knew he was right because he had the data. He didn't have a theory. He had data. And his models, he was spot on the whole time. The whole time. And imagine the tragedies that might have been avoided if Harry Markopoulos had been taken more seriously sooner. We might have been able to avoid maybe 50 billion of the 62 billion disaster. Possibly. Who knows? And maybe not so many people would have killed themselves, including Madoff's son, if it hadn't gone so long, so far, so big. Yeah. If it had been nipped in the bud, who knows? Maybe those people would still be alive because they'd still have, their savings. All right. So we've got this guy gets 104 million. Harry Markopoulos gets nothing. So Harry Markopoulos gets zero, right? Keep this in mind. Markopoulos gets zero for the Bernie Madoff thing. This guy gets 104 million. Harry Markopoulos.
But did they recover the Madoff money? I think you got to recover the money to get it.
So because they were giving the money back to investors, I think a number of investors did get money back, but not all of it. And so there was no excess for Markopoulos to get paid. But again, I'm talking about traditional whistleblowing and sort of outside the boundaries of this traditional whistleblowing. So in other words, once you're outside the protection, so to speak, of the company that you work for, right, and you become a former employee of somewhere, and you don't necessarily have access to any information that's considered a secret, you just have skills. You just know how to use stuff, right? And if you found a flaw, right? So let's say once upon a time you worked at General Motors, right? And you were an ABS engineer on braking systems. And you saw the new, but you don't work there anymore. But you got to look at your buddy just got the brand new Corvette with all the vents and stuff, and you're looking at the anti-lock braking system. You're like, dude, there's a fatal flaw in this thing. There's absolutely a fatal flaw in the system, and people are going to die. And you're an expert, but you don't work there anymore. Now, are you a whistleblower? You don't have any protections. Government's not going to protect you. General Motors isn't going to protect you. But you might know more about ABS braking systems than any person on the planet. We are finding ourselves in that situation as a society right now, where people...
John, there's something huge annoying happening with the sound that I want to try to address. Give me just 1 second here. I'm super sorry. Sure. I don't know why this is happening. Uh-oh.
I'm here.
Oh, no.
What did you do?
Can you hear me?
No problem.
Oh, we're back.
Yes.
Good. It solved itself. Okay, and the clicking is gone. Sorry about that. I don't know. I think there's a firmware update for that thing. Sorry.
Okay. Well, I don't hear any clicking. All right. So I sent you a couple of videos, and I want to, why don't we run the first video that I sent you in the list. It says I go by thickness. And before we play it, let me just kind of set this up. And it's cued. It's cued where it needs to be. The way you measure things matters, right? And I tend to measure things differently. And this clip that we're going to run is sort of the setup for everything we're going to talk about today, which is if you measure things differently, well, we get to look at things differently, right? So we're going to run this little clip of one of my heroes, one of my comedic heroes, Stephen Wright. And again, I think if you can figure out what makes a man laugh, you can figure out how his brain works, right? So these are the things that make me laugh because this is how I think, right? So when I hear this, I'm like, yeah, that's me. So listen to this clip from Stephen Wright, and this is going to set up how this show is going to work.
It's good. I like it. Last night I was in a bar and I walked up to this beautiful woman and I said, "Do you live around here often?" She said, "You're wearing 2 different color socks." I said, "Yes, but to me they're the same because I go by thickness."
Now, zooming in there so that we reduce the risk of getting a strike from putting somebody else's video there. It is fair use if we're making commentary on it, but you never know what happens on YouTube.
Well, the important aspect is this is the rubric that we're using, right? So we're not going by color, right? So most people look at socks and they look at the knit and they look at the color and they say, oh yeah, those are the same. It's a matching pair. What Stephen is saying is, no, I go by thickness. I don't care what color they are. Color is irrelevant to me. Right, I go by thickness. So if it's the same weave and it's the same material and one of them's orange and one of them's green, he doesn't care. Right? Mm-hmm. That's how I work. Right? Everybody's talking about a particular virus over here, and I'm looking at the other virus over there. I'm looking at the one that's killing more people, not the one that's getting all the headlines.
Hey,
right?
Sorry to interrupt, but for some reason our live stream on Rumble was interrupted, so maybe it's not working perfectly.
All right. I wonder, is the live stream working over at Johnny Hoover, or did that get shut?
It's a good question. Still working.
Okay. All right. We'll
carry
figure
on.
this out. Yeah, we'll get it going next week. All right. So where were we? We were talking about, we just finished
Thickness.
talking about, yeah, thickness. So it's how we measure things. So if we measure things a little bit differently, and that's what we're going to do, we're going to go and look at these whistleblowers. I want to look at Edward Snowden. I want to look at Julian Assange. I want to look at Chelsea Manning, who my straw man hypothesis is right now, based on thickness, based on the way we're going to measure tonight, Chelsea Manning is in the lead as far as at the Hall of Fame. I think so. And so the rubric that we're going to use is body count. We're going to look at these different whistleblowers, and we're going to look at, now you're familiar with a couple of them that I'm not. Like, you know Bill Binney's story, you know Kiriakou's story way better than I do. And what I want to just kind of get to the net of is in each one of the revelations from each one of these whistleblowers, how many people died? That's what we're going to look at. How many people died as part of that whole revelation? In other words, were there murders involved and there was some sort of crime thing and people died? Or was it some other stuff? And that's what we're going to look at. So when I say we're going to change the rubric, we're not talking about how many different programs were exposed. We're not talking about the political impact. We're talking about how many people died. And that's what we're going to explore. But before we get to that, let's take a look at the Johns Hopkins daily COVID-19 data in motion. Each day, Johns Hopkins is publishing data about the COVID outbreak. And they've put together this animated little clip. I think it only runs about a minute or so. And they do it every day. And they run it on YouTube. And I've been posting fairly innocuous questions like, is it true that there's more people dead in Connecticut than Nigeria, even though Nigeria has over 200 million people? And the comments never seem to show up.
There's
right,
zero
they never
comments.
seem to show up. Right. But I posted comments there. Now, why would... I'm not posting any kind of inflammatory comments. I'm simply saying, like, here would be a comment I would post. Is it true that there aren't 10 people dead in Beijing, or is the data bad? What's wrong? What's wrong with that question? I mean, that's just a question. Is the data bad, or are there really not 10 people dead in Beijing? They won't let that question get posted because, you see, there's nothing there. But why don't we run the video?
It's that they have a video with 3,000 views and 0 comments. It doesn't say that comments are closed. There's just 0 comments there. 11,000 views and no comments. That defies, and 38 thumbs up. That doesn't sound right at all.
Let's go to the most recent one. Let's go to today's and let's see where we stand with today. How many views was this today's video? No,
this
26th.
is from 3 days ago. So they got 37,000.9 subscribers, which frankly seems low for something as well known as this. They got a thing from an hour ago.
Not the same as me. They're the same as Johnny Hoover. So Johns Hopkins and Johnny Hoover. That's it. That's what we want. How many comments?
No comments. 30 thumbs up out of 3,000.
And I posted 2 comments. I asked, is it true that there's not 10 people dead in Beijing, or is the data bad? I don't want to hear that. But let's run the video. I want people to see, what are they telling you? So what is the data? What are they showing us here? What is today's update from John? Let's go back to the beginning. Let's cue this up and see. So, and are they trying to, is this scary? Is it still scary, or is it getting better?
Well, 58,000 cases is not ideal.
575,000 deaths, 32 million cases. Positivity ratio. Oh, outbreak map. Oh, that looks very pandemic-y, Jason. That looks very pandemic-y. Florida, Michigan, New York, Texas, and Illinois have new cases rising. India, 386,000 new cases. Bloomberg Philanthropies, Jason. Isn't
What is
Bloomberg
that?
Philanthropies? Well, it was their logo at the end. So aren't they a 503c?
501c3. Well, we'd have to look that up. Probably they are something.
So Bloomberg Philanthropies is the one who's presenting the data. Interesting, because I thought Mike Bloomberg was running against President Trump. And I thought he spent $1 billion. I thought he dropped out of the race right before Super Tuesday. And I haven't heard a peep from the guy since. But his Johns Hopkins operation has sure been busy. Boy, that Johns Hopkins is a busy place with their maps and their videos, right? So the map that we're using is Johns Hopkins. Now they're putting out the videos, but they won't answer simple questions like, is it true that there's not 10 people dead in Shanghai? That's what your map says. Is the data bad? Or is that true? Why would you not want to take that question? Doesn't it feel like the emperor's got no clothes? Right. I mean, it feels like the emperor's got no clothes. It's a simple question. Is it true that Nigeria, with over 200 million people, has fewer dead than Virginia, Governor Northam? And if so, how do you explain that? How did Virginia, with everybody's got horses, end up with more people dead than Nigeria? Have you seen the slums in Nigeria?
I thought
the slums of Lagos.
I thought Lagos was a pretty cosmopolitan city.
It is.
Like
There's
New York.
20, there's about 20. Lagos is like LA. It's spread out like Los Angeles. And I think of the 200 million in Nigeria, I think 20 million, 19 million are Lagos. But the whole damn country of Nigeria has a little over 2,000 dead. There's more dead in Connecticut. You need to be able to explain that, not just dismiss it. If you can't explain Nigeria, Tanzania, Ethiopia, Vietnam, it's like you're not playing with the full deck of cards. You don't really know what you're dealing with. This is one of the frustrations when I hear Del Bigtree and all these other guys talking about the pandemic.
Uh-huh.
They don't have all the facts.
Well, what do you mean? What are they saying?
Well, it's what they don't say. Have you ever heard Del Bigtree say there aren't 10 people dead in Shanghai? No. Have you ever heard
I think he's focused
Del Bigtree
on other things.
There's nothing more important. When you look at the most important elements in root cause analysis, right? So this is what is killing everybody. Is it SARS-CoV-2? Well, how many people has SARS-CoV-2 killed in Vietnam? How many people has SARS-CoV-2 killed in Laos? How many people has SARS-CoV-2 killed in Thailand? It's the heart of the solution to what's actually happened here. And if Del Bigtree doesn't know this, if Robert Kennedy Jr. doesn't know it, they don't have 52 cards in their deck. They don't have all the data. They don't have all the information. And in particular, they don't have the most pertinent information. The most relevant aspect of this story right now is the fact that no one in the world is willing to say that there aren't 10 people dead in Beijing or Shanghai. Yet we're calling it the China virus. That, to me,
David Hawkins says it's the Canada virus.
And David Hawkins and I agree, right? So, in fact, please invite David to come on the show soon because I want to talk about totally Winnipeg. He and I are in lockstep, and he knows a hell of a lot more about this whole Winnipeg thing. I sent you a story last week about a plane that one of the audience members crowdsourced the stuff, got it to me, an article from like 2006 that a plane crashed leaving Winnipeg with a bunch of vials. And of course, nothing happened because they safely recovered them. And of course, that was the end of the story because we always have happy endings. But I'm reading this. I'm like, oh my God, does David know this? This factors in here. And that came from somebody in the audience. So David and I are very much in agreement, I think, on many of the aspects of the Winnipeg part of the story as it pertains to Dr. Chu, right? I think we're in very much lockstep. Then we got the Lieberman guy and the whole Lieberman case that the DOJ admits to coming out of Harvard. And it's not just Lieberman. There were a whole bunch of members of his staff that were similarly investigated, right? So all that stuff is going on. I totally agree with you. I think Hawkins is on to that part of the story.
Lieber, I think, is the guy's name, not Lieberman. Charles Lieber?
Okay. Yeah, Lieberman was the senator in Connecticut. I got confused. Forgive me. Yeah. Lieber at Harvard.
What has happened with that Dr. Lieber lately?
Who the hell knows? I mean, we don't know what happened to the Al Qaeda guy that was living in Phoenix a year ago that they arrested. There's no right. Follow up on that story either. You know, you got the head of Al Qaeda, the butcher of the butcher Fallujah's boss was living in Phoenix teaching little girls how to drive.
Oh,
for 12 years.
Lieber has incurable cancer. I didn't know that. And he's preparing for his trial. It looms.
That's an update. That's new news. I didn't know that either. Okay.
He's fighting for his life. Wow, that's bad. That's interesting. Wrinkle, I didn't know that. I wonder how fatal illness might affect your thought process and your views in the future.
Yeah. All right. We've got, let's see. We've got a video clip out of India. And one of the things I wanted to share with people is how the rest of the world is perceiving the United States. We've got a pretty international audience. We got a lot of folks from the UK, from Ireland, from Australia that watch the show. And I'm looking at the news reporting coming out of Australia, and they are ripping into the U.S. Sky News Australia is just destroying the U.S. And even Wyon News. Oh, you'll see in a minute. We're going to run a clip or two. And we've got this Wyon News from India. And this lady's a bulldog. I've watched a number of her broadcasts. She's fantastic. They've got 2.5 million subscribers. They're out of India, out of Delhi. They're legit. And she does great reporting. And this is a report from India. Okay. This is a report from India. It's got 1 million views. It's 2 days old. And she's talking about the patents and Bill Gates' position on patents. So let's take a listen to what she has to say. And again, is she blowing the whistle? She's not a whistleblower, but she's calling attention to something that I think matters. And she's not protected in any way. So let's listen to what she has to say.
What about the United States? Well, after refusing to sell vaccine raw materials, it is now trying to undo the damage. US President Joe Biden spoke to Prime Minister Narendra Modi last night. He promised to send emergency assistance. This includes oxygen supplies, vaccine materials, and medicines. On Monday, an Air India flight picked up oxygen concentrators from New York. And this is a welcome shift. Remember, America was reluctant to help. It changed after it was slammed the world over, not only for refusing to help India, but also for hoarding vaccines. So here's another shift. America now wants to send up to 60 million doses of AstraZeneca vaccine to different parts of the world. When will that happen? After American regulators check the safety of the shots. It could take weeks, it could take months. There are no clear timelines. The world is not America's priority. So why is it sharing vaccines at all? Because it's got too many of them. More than 550 million excess doses. I'm going to repeat that so that you can note it. The United States has 550 million extra vaccines. That's what you call hoarding. Let me show you a chart. It shows how many doses some countries have produced and how many they have exported. These figures are till the end of March. Countries like China and India exported more than 40% of their supplies. Even the European Union shared 42% of its supplies. What about the United States? It exported 0 shots. What about the United Kingdom? Again, 0. They exported nothing. Countries like the US and the UK represent the global elite, the rich who booked millions of doses well in advance. Now they have extra vaccines, enough to inoculate their population 3 times over, in some cases 5 times. But they haven't shared anything with the world. And they're making sure this system does not change. They will not share vaccines. They will not share vaccine recipes. Life-saving drugs have been locked in patents. It's a subject that I bring up every day because it is the most important battle right now. The world needs to end this pandemic, and for that we need vaccines. And the rich have locked up these vaccines. Reports say during yesterday's phone call, Prime Minister Modi pressed President Biden about this. India has been pushing for a waiver on vaccine patents at the World Trade Organization, the WTO. The US and the UK have aggressively blocked this proposal. And backing them are countries like Japan, also the European Union. After the phone call, a senior official of the Biden administration was asked if America will relent. Will the United States back a patent waiver? Team Biden said it has nothing to share on this front. And it's not just governments, by the way, who are putting patents over lives. Even individuals who make up the global elite are championing the cause of Big Pharma. The likes of Bill Gates, the billionaire philanthropist, believes vaccine formula should not be shared with the developing world.
Why?
He gave the statement on Sunday. Bill Gates was asked if it would be helpful for intellectual property protections to be lifted. How did he respond? With an emphatic no. Why? Because he fears that lifting patent rights, even temporarily, could compromise the safety of vaccines. Bill Gates believes in keeping the circle tight. He says the ideas like moving production from a Johnson & Johnson factory to a facility in India are novel. And they only happen, and I'm quoting here, they only happen because of our grants and expertise. Bill Gates is towing the line of Big Pharma. According to a report, every vaccine maker has its own secret recipes and supply chains, and they insist that no other approach is possible. Nothing else will work. And this is exactly why the world is lagging behind in the global vaccination drive. It's because the supplies have been limited by design. It's not like we cannot produce more.
Well, so
Only a few companies.
Let me pause this here because people can watch this full video. I got to say, I am a little concerned about these clip shows. This is a bad idea. Someone's going to try to strike the show, but we'll keep going for now. And the thing I want to ask you, though, John, is that I don't know if you remember this movie. What was this guy's name? Brer Rabbit. And he's like, please don't throw me in the briar pit. But I think he gets right in there and he's like, whatever, I'm a rabbit. I'm just going to walk around in here. So it's like Bill Gates is like, oh, no, you can't have the vaccine.
Yeah, and remember, Brer Rabbit is the story where we get the tar baby from, right? And the tar baby is a key portion of this. This is from the Uncle Remus stories.
Well, I think it's super racist, right?
No, actually, no. The idea of the tar baby is it's a trap.
No. But right? Uncle Remus is a slave. There's a live action port. Like the guy is telling them the story, and then the cartoon is the story. I don't think this movie is available anymore.
Well, we'll have to check with Disney. Somebody call Laureen, see if she has any time on her schedule to talk about the availability of Uncle Remus at Disney. All right, so let's come back, though, to the notion is that around the world, criticism of the United States is pretty high. There's a Sky News Australia. Again, we're critiquing their news. So this is absolutely fair use. There's no striking of this. They're reporting a story, and we're talking about their reporting of the story. Sky News Australia is talking about Joe Biden and is saying a lot of the things that I think the people in the United States are thinking, but that the news media, I just don't see it. Maybe Tucker Carlson says a bit of it, maybe Hannity, but I think everybody just kind of expects the same stuff from them. But this is coming out of Australia. This is like a whole nother part of the world. Their observations on Joe Biden. I think it's fascinating. Can we run this? Let's see what we see here.
Now, there was another example of this kind of racism this week, endorsed by no less than Joe Biden, President of the United States, whose stupidity, by the way, is now a threat to the West. It occurred at his climate summit. What a disgraceful farce that was. I am gobsmacked that Biden, on that Thursday and Friday last week, insulted the intelligence of 39 other world leaders, including our Prime Minister Scott Morrison, by making them listen to the ravings of a bizarre parade of alarmists and mystics and New Age tribal women and even a teenager. It was amazing. Now, Biden called this summit last week to force countries like ours to slash their global warming gases even more, at whatever cost, in money and jobs, while the world's biggest emitter, China, by the way, is meanwhile free to increase its own.
All right, you can
Catholic
pause on
communities
this
throughout
one.
the world depend.
All right, now go to the next one from Sky News. There's another one. It says the link right after that one from Sky News. Let's run that one. This one's funny. This is
But
pretty
first
funny.
tonight, do you remember back in the good old days, 2007, the golden era of politics, the self-serving claims that John Howard was too old to be Prime Minister? At the time, he was a sprightly and very energetic 66-year-old, and he had nearly a dozen years' experience as the best Prime Minister in my lifetime at least. And that narrative, that he was too old, was pushed by a bunch of media outlets, it was pushed by the Labor Party and a few lefties within the Liberal Party who didn't want Howard to be the leader anymore. Now today, John Howard is 81 and he could still run intellectual rings around many of the current crop of political leaders, both here and abroad. Unfortunately, we can't say the same for the United States political administration, which is starting to resemble the movie Weekend at Bernie's. You may recall that film involved a couple of losers pretending their dead boss was actually still alive so that they could enjoy his beach house and his enormously extravagant
looks like
lifestyle
you made the graphic.
for the whole weekend.
It looks like you made
But
the
now
graphic.
we have the Weekend at Biden's.
This fall, get ready for a presidential candidate unlike any other.
I think we're good.
Weekend at Biden's.
That's great.
This is the reality show where the Democrats put up a barely cogent candidate for president just so that they could enjoy the spoils of office for 4 years. And of course, it features an all-star cast of the politically semi-lucid, headlined by Joe Biden himself. But he's ably supported, I have to say, by crazy Nancy Pelosi and the hapless Chuck Schumer. The character of the manipulating, unlovable loser belongs to the cackling Kamala Harris.
Okay, I'll go stage, but yeah.
Now, as befits the Democrats, the plot is pretty simple. A trio of near octogenarians, oh, that reminds me, happy 80th birthday today, Nancy Pelosi. They seize control of the most powerful nation in the world while not having any idea what they're doing. All the while,
Hey, John.
their radical understudy plots
I'm
to
here.
seize
You
power
can
for
pause.
We
herself.
gotta. Well, the thing is, we got to
pause.
do the transition pretty soon, and I want to
Okay,
have a
okay.
moment to try to address this clicking.
Okay.
So-
All right. So we've got. Let's see. We've got
should wrap
one
it up
last. Yeah.
And make the
yeah. Let's wrap
transition
it up.
to
This last,
subscribestar.com/I am John Cullen, patreon.com/I am John Cullen, subscribestar.com/crowdsource the truth, and patreon.com/crowdsource the truth. But I want to upgrade the firmware on that sound interface so we don't have this clicking.
All right, let me just tell everybody, here's what you're going to see when you come over to Patreon or Subscribestar tonight. We're going to look at who served the Johnny Hoover channel with a copyright strike. It was the Vaccine Makers Project, and we're going to look at their video called Using Genetic Engineering to Make Vaccines. So we're going to watch one of their videos together. And then we're going to take a look at something that took place in the UK the other day. There was this Freedom March, And I don't know if everybody had a chance to see that, but it was pretty awesome. So we're going to take a look at that from, it was called Humanity on Its Feet. And we're going to watch that together. But we're going to go a little deeper into Edward Snowden, into Julian Assange, into Chelsea Manning, and what their body counts were when we make the transition. Thank you guys for joining.
Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you in just a couple minutes.